Stranded on a hostile alien world with only 72 hours before the enemy returns, a fractured team must piece together the ultimate puzzle to survive. But trust is scarce, resources are dwindling, and everyone holds a piece of the code needed to send a distress signal. Can they overcome their fears and suspicions in time, or will betrayal seal their fate? Subscribe now to witness this gripping sci-fi thriller unfold. The attack came without warning. One moment, the research team stationed on Terra 7 was conducting routine experiments. The next, chaos erupted as the Nerix descended like shadows given form. Their elongated limbs and razor-sharp claws tore through walls and flesh alike, leaving devastation in their wake. By the time the dust settled, only 7 members of the original 23 remained alive, huddled together in the deepest level of the complex, a secure bunker designed to withstand catastrophic events. Dr. Alara Quinn, the team's xenobiologist, clutched her bleeding arm as she surveyed the grim faces around her. There was Commander Victor Hale, stoic but visibly shaken, Dr. Elias Voss, the astrophysicist whose glasses were cracked but still perched precariously on his nose, Priya Nair, the geologist who had barricaded herself in the lab during the assault, Marcus Lin, the engineer muttering under his breath about repair timelines, Lieutenant Riya Patel, head of security, whose weapon now carried dents from close encounters, and finally, Arvid Kane, the abrasive biologist whose cynicism bordered on hostility, even in moments of calm. "We have 72 hours, Victor announced, his voice steady despite the exhaustion etched into his features. "That's how long it'll take for the Nerix to regroup and come back for us." After that, he didn't need to finish the sentence. Everyone knew what awaited them if they failed to escape or call for help. "But we can't just sit here waiting to die," Priya interjected, her voice rising. "We have to try something." Victor nodded grimly. "There's a transmitter in the central hub. If we can activate it, we might be able to send an SOS to Earth. Problem is, the system requires a 12-digit code split across multiple access points, and each of you holds part of it." Silence fell over the group as the weight of his words sank in. Protocols had been put in place years ago to prevent unauthorized use of critical systems, ensuring no single individual could compromise the facility. Now, those same protocols threatened to doom them all. The realization hit hard. Each survivor possessed fragments of the activation code, encoded onto physical tokens, data chips, handwritten notes, or encrypted files stored on personal devices. Trust became the immediate issue. How could they ensure no one would withhold their piece out of fear, or worse, sabotage the effort entirely? "This is insane," Arvid spat, pacing furiously. "Why should I hand over my part of the code when half of you probably wouldn't blink twice before throwing me to the wolves?" "Because if we don't work together, none of us makes it out alive," Victor shot back, his tone sharp enough to cut steel. "You think the Nerix care about your paranoia? They'll rip us apart whether we're united or not." Alara stepped forward, attempting to mediate. "Arguing won't solve anything. We need a plan, and fast." Marcus chimed in, gesturing toward the battered equipment scattered around the room. "First things first, we need power restored to the central hub. Without it, the transmitter's useless." Riya added, "And we'll need weapons. Or, at least better defenses. Those things aren't going to politely knock before breaking in again." A consensus began to form, however fragile. They would divide tasks based on expertise. Marcus and Priya would focus on restoring power, Riya would oversee defense preparations, and Alara, Elias, and Arvid would attempt to reconstruct the activation code. Victor took charge of coordinating efforts, keeping morale intact despite the growing tension. As they dispersed, Alara couldn't shake the feeling that their greatest adversary wasn't the Nerix, it was themselves. Restoring power proved more challenging than anticipated. The main generator lay 3 levels above their current position, separated by collapsed corridors and lurking dangers. Armed with improvised tools and scavenged materials, Marcus and Priya set out cautiously, scanning every shadow for signs of movement. "It's too quiet," Priya whispered, her flashlight beam cutting through the darkness. "Like they're watching us." "They are," Marcus replied grimly. "Just because We don't see them doesn't mean they're not there. Their journey was fraught with obstacles. Fallen debris blocked passages, forcing them to climb or reroute frequently. Strange noises echoed through the halls, screeches and skitters that sent shivers down their spines. At one point, they stumbled upon a gruesome tableau, remnants of their colleagues, partially consumed by the Nerex. "Don't look," Marcus urged, placing a hand on Priya's shoulder. "Keep moving." When they finally reached the generator room, they found it partially destroyed. Repairing it required creative solutions, rewiring circuits, jury-rigging components, and even using Priya's knowledge of mineral conductivity to stabilize the energy flow. Hours passed in tense silence, broken only by muttered calculations and occasional exclamations of frustration. Meanwhile, back in the bunker, distrust simmered among the others. Arvid refused to share his portion of the code until he saw tangible progress, while Elias struggled to decipher his own fragment due to damage sustained during the attack. Alara tried to mediate, but tempers flared easily under the strain. With power partially restored, attention turned to decoding the activation sequence. Each fragment of the code corresponded to a specific algorithm tied to the station's location, date, and operational parameters. Reconstructing it required piecing together disparate elements, much like solving a jigsaw puzzle blindfolded. Elias pored over his notes, cross-referencing symbols etched onto his data chip with patterns in the station's database. "I think I've got the first segment," he announced triumphantly after hours of painstaking work. "That's great," Alara replied, though her tone betrayed skepticism. "But what about the rest?" Arvid scoffed. "Why should I believe you haven't fabricated that? For all we know, you're trying to hog control of the process." "And why should we trust you, Dash?" Rhea countered, stepping between them. "This isn't about dominance. It's about survival. Start acting like it." Her words silenced the argument, at least temporarily. Slowly, reluctantly, the team began pooling their resources. Fragments were exchanged cautiously, verified meticulously, and integrated into a shared framework. Progress was agonizingly slow, hindered by mistrust and technical hurdles. Outside, the clock ticked relentlessly onward. Every passing hour brought them closer to the inevitable return of the Nerex. Defensive measures took shape under Rhea's leadership. Using spare parts and scavenged weaponry, she constructed makeshift traps and reinforced barriers around key areas. Her military training proved invaluable, allowing her to anticipate potential entry points and fortify them accordingly. "We can't hold them off indefinitely," she admitted during a briefing. "But we can buy ourselves some time." Time was exactly what they needed. With the transmitter nearly operational, the final hurdle involved syncing the reconstructed code with the station's master terminal. This step required simultaneous input from multiple users, meaning cooperation was non-negotiable. "I'll handle the primary interface," Victor declared. "Alara, you monitor the secondary systems. Arvid and Elias, stand by to input your segments when prompted." "What about me?" Rhea asked. "You're on guard duty," Victor replied firmly. "If anything goes wrong, we'll need someone ready to respond immediately." Tension mounted as they gathered in the central hub. The air hummed with electricity, both literal and metaphorical. Hands hovered over keyboards, eyes darted nervously toward darkened corners, and hearts pounded in unison. "On my mark," Victor instructed. 3, 2, 1 now. Fingers flew across keys, entering sequences with precision born of desperation. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, a faint hum emanated from the transmitter, followed by a blinking green light. "It's working!" Alara exclaimed, relief flooding her voice. But their celebration was short-lived. From the depths of the station came a sound that chilled them to the bone, the unmistakable screech of the Nerex returning far earlier than expected. The moment the transmission's signal blinked green, a wave of relief washed over the survivors, but it was fleeting. The screeches grew louder, reverberating through the corridors as the Nerex closed in. Their elongated shadows danced on the walls, distorted by flickering emergency lights. "We've got maybe 5 minutes before they breach the perimeter," Rhea barked, reloading her weapon with shaking hands. everyone fall back to the hub. The team scrambled into action, retreating from their posts toward the central chamber. Along the way, Marcus and Priya triggered several of the traps Rhea had set earlier. Explosive charges rigged to collapse sections of the ceiling, buying them precious seconds. "Keep moving," Rhea shouted, firing blindly into the darkness behind them. Her shots illuminated brief glimpses of the Nerex, sinewy limbs, glowing eyes, and jagged teeth glinting in the dim light. As they reached the hub, Victor slammed the reinforced door shut and activated the locking mechanism. It wouldn't hold forever, but it would slow the creatures down. Inside, chaos reigned. Alara frantically checked the transmitter status, while Elias monitored auxiliary systems for signs of failure. Arvid paced like a caged animal, clutching his fragment of the code as though it might still be needed. "How long until help arrives?" Priya asked, her voice trembling.
Victor hesitated.
"Unknown. The signal's been sent, but there's no guarantee anyone will respond immediately, or at all." That sobering truth hung heavy in the air. Even if Earth received the SOS, assembling a rescue mission this far out would take days, possibly weeks. They were on their own for now. With the Nerex hammering relentlessly against the doors, the team turned its focus inward. Surviving meant not just defending themselves but also maintaining cohesion, a task made harder by mounting paranoia. Arvid broke the tension first. What if this whole thing is useless? What if Earth doesn't care enough to send help? "They'll come," Victor snapped, his patience wearing thin. "But we need to stay alive long enough to see them arrive." Alara intervened, her tone calm but firm. "Arguing won't keep us safe. We need to prioritize, fortify this room, conserve ammo, and monitor the transmitter for any response." Rhea nodded in agreement. "I'll organize shifts for guarding the entrance. Everyone else focuses on what they do best." Roles were quickly assigned. Marcus and Priya worked on reinforcing barriers using spare equipment, welding metal plates over weak points in the walls. Alara and Elias kept watch over the transmitter, ensuring the signal remained active despite intermittent power surges caused by the Nerex attacks. Meanwhile, Arvid stewed in silence, his mistrust evident in every glance he cast at the others. When Victor approached him later, offering a ration pack, Arvid sneered. "You think feeding me earns your trust? I'm not falling for it." "It's not about trust," Victor replied evenly. "It's about survival. If you want to live, you'll stop acting like a liability." For once, Arvid didn't argue. Hours passed in a blur of adrenaline and exhaustion. The Nerex showed no signs of relenting, their relentless assault testing the limits of the team's endurance. Every time one trap was triggered, another had to be hastily reset. Ammunition dwindled dangerously low, forcing Rhea to ration shots carefully. In quieter moments, fragments of conversation revealed cracks beneath the surface. "I never signed up for this," Priya muttered during a lull, her hands trembling as she patched a damaged barrier. "I'm a geologist, not some soldier." "You're doing fine," Marcus reassured her, though his own voice lacked conviction. Alara overheard and stepped closer. "None of us did. But here we are. All we can do is keep going one step at a time." Her words resonated, even with Arvid, who reluctantly pitched in when called upon. Slowly, grudgingly, the group began functioning less like individuals and more like a cohesive unit. Yet doubts lingered. Was Earth even listening? And if they were, how could reinforcements reach Terra 7 in time? On the second day, the situation deteriorated further. Power fluctuations disrupted the transmitter multiple times, requiring Elias and Alara to recalibrate the system repeatedly. Each interruption felt like a death knell, amplifying the fear that their efforts were futile. "This damn thing has to work," Elias muttered, frustration boiling over as he adjusted yet another circuit. "If it fails now, we're dead anyway." "It's holding," Alara assured him, though sweat dripped down her face. "Just keep steady." Outside the hub, the Nerex adapted to their defenses. Some managed to bypass traps entirely, forcing Rhea and Marcus to engage in close-quarters combat. Injuries mounted, a gash on Rhea's leg, burns on Marcus's arms, but they pressed on, knowing retreat wasn't an option. Amidst the carnage, A breakthrough came unexpectedly. The transmitter emitted a faint beep, followed by a synthesized voice. SOS confirmed. Rescue en route. Eta, irurogeita amabiors. Cheers erupted, mingling with tears of relief. 72 hours wasn't much, but it was enough to reignite hope. The confirmation of rescue galvanized the survivors, but it also heightened tensions. Knowing help was coming didn't change the reality. They still had to survive 3 more days under siege. We need to rotate shifts more efficiently, Victor instructed during a strategy meeting. Sleep in cycles, 2 people awake at all times. Conserve resources. And for God's sake, don't let infighting get in the way. His stern reminder wasn't directed at anyone specific, but everyone knew who it applied to most: Arvid. Though he'd contributed more since the transmission succeeded, his sharp tongue and accusatory glances continued to grate on nerves already frayed by exhaustion. When Priya confronted him privately, his response caught her off guard. "You think I enjoy being hated?" he growled, his usual bravado replaced by vulnerability. "I'm scared too, okay? This place, these things. I don't know how much longer I can keep pretending I'm brave." Priya softened, placing a hand on his shoulder. "None of us does. That's why we stick together." For the first time, Arvid let his guard down, nodding silently. As the countdown continued, the team discovered new layers of resilience within themselves. Small acts of kindness became lifelines, sharing rations, tending wounds, exchanging quiet words of encouragement. These gestures, though seemingly insignificant, wove threads of unity into the fabric of their collective struggle. Even Ria, whose stoic demeanor rarely cracked, allowed herself a rare moment of vulnerability. After narrowly surviving a particularly brutal skirmish, she sat slumped against the wall, blood trickling from a cut above her eye. "I used to think leadership meant never showing weakness," she admitted to Victor, who knelt beside her to apply a bandage. "Now I realize it's the opposite. People follow strength because they see honesty in it." Victor smiled faintly. "Guess we're learning that lesson together." Their bond deepened, mirroring the growing solidarity among the entire group. No longer were they disparate individuals clinging to survival. They were a team forged in fire, bound by shared purpose. The third day dawned grimly. Supplies were nearly depleted, and the Nereks showed no sign of fatigue. Their attacks grew more coordinated, suggesting intelligence beyond mere instinct. "They're learning our patterns," Ria observed grimly, inspecting the remnants of a collapsed barricade. "We can't rely on the same tricks indefinitely." Desperation bred innovation. Using scraps scavenged from destroyed equipment, Marcus constructed rudimentary noise generators designed to disorient the Nereks. Meanwhile, Alara and Elias devised a plan to overload the station's backup generators, creating a temporary electromagnetic pulse that might incapacitate nearby enemies. "Risk versus reward," Victor said when presented with the idea. "Do it." The EMP worked better than expected, temporarily disabling several Nereks and giving the team a brief reprieve. But the victory was costly. Their last reserves of energy were spent, leaving them vulnerable once again. With less than 24 hours remaining, the survivors faced their darkest hour. Exhaustion clouded judgment, injuries hampered movement, and despair threatened to consume them. Yet amidst the bleakness, sparks of hope flickered defiantly. "We've made it this far," Alara reminded them during a rare pause. "One more day. Just one more." Her words bolstered spirits, inspiring a final push. Together, they fortified the hub, repaired damaged defenses, and prepared for what promised to be their fiercest battle yet. When the Nereks launched their climactic assault, the team fought with everything they had left. Bullets flew, barriers crumbled, and bodies collided in chaotic melee. But this time, they stood united, not as 7 fractured souls, but as one indomitable force. At dawn on the 4th day, the sound of engines pierced the air. A fleet of Earth vessels descended from orbit, deploying troops armed with advanced weaponry. Within minutes, the Nereks were driven back, their numbers decimated by superior firepower. The survivors emerged from the hub, battered but alive, blinking against the sudden brightness of searchlights. Medics rushed to tend their wounds, while officers debriefed them on the events leading up to the rescue. "You did good," Victor told his team, pride evident in his voice. "Against impossible odds, you held together." Alara looked around at her companions, once strangers, now family, and smiled faintly. Not bad for a bunch of scientists and engineers. Back on Earth, the story of Terra 7 became legend, celebrated as a testament to human resilience and cooperation in the face of overwhelming adversity. Protocols were revised, emphasizing teamwork and redundancy over rigid compartmentalization. For the survivors, life moved forward, shaped indelibly by their ordeal. Each carried scars, physical and emotional, but also lessons learned in the crucible of survival. Years later, Alara returned to Terra 7 as part of a research expedition. Standing amidst the ruins of the complex, she reflected on the journey that had transformed her and humanity itself. If you enjoyed this gripping tale of courage, sacrifice, and unity against insurmountable odds, consider subscribing for more thrilling sci-fi adventures spanning the stars. Thank you for joining us on this unforgettable journey through science fiction's limitless realms. Subscribe now and embark on your next great odyssey.